Welcome to another S&P 500 analysis. Today is January 26, 2022. Another volatile day for the S&P 500 and the stock market. From the previous video, we said the FOMC announcement and J Powell press conference could bring volatility to the stock market, and it did not disappoint. In this S&P 500 analysis video, we'll look at the price action of the S&P 500 along with the other major market indexes, the market sentiment, and its internal to see what they are telling us. Stay tuned. Looking at this daily chart of the S&P 500, as you can see today, it closed down 0.15% or 6.5 points or so. You see that the range was quite large. It was 148 points, and it's kind of got a big swing and then end up closing just fractionally down from yesterday. Here, looking at the intraday chart of the S&P 500, these are the 3-minute candles. As you can see that the S&P 500 opened gap up and pretty much stayed somewhere around this 4,400 level throughout the day until the FOMC announcement came out, and then it made a little bit of a pop and then pull back and then settle down at that 4,400 level. Then when J Powell started his press conference, that's where we saw the S&P 500 starting to give up ground and actually close, fill this gap and went into a negative territory before it came back up into the close for the OPX. So although that we did see some positive, up-down volume ratio early throughout the session, but at the end of the day, it actually ended down in favor of the down volume by 1.8 to 1. Initially, early in the morning here, early in the session, it was pretty close to 7 to 1 in favor of the up volume. And also the VIX, the VIX got above the 30 level as the afternoon or as the J Powell press conference progresses. And we see that it closed at 30.79. It stayed under that 30 pretty much throughout the session until the press conference. And also the put-call ratio also stayed below the 0.75 throughout the session until at the near the end of the press conference, we see that it creeped back up above the 0.75, closed at 0.76. In addition to that, also the advanced decline. Early in the morning, the advancing issue led the declining issue by over 2,200. And then at the end of the day, the decliners outnumbered the advancer by 1,200 issues. So that's quite a turnaround from 2,200 in favor of the advancing issue to 1,200 in favor of the declining issues. So here looking at the daily VIX, you see that the VIX came up and closed at 31.96. So we're still waiting for a peak from this sentiment indicator to see when it's going to start turning back down. The put-call ratio, we saw a little bit of peak last Friday. It peaked out at 1.05, so it went above 1. But right now, we are still looking at it sitting inside of this or above this 0.75. And for the up-down volume ratio, you see that it closed the day at 1.79 or close to 1.8 to 1 in favor of the down volume, and the decliner outnumbered the advancer by 1,238 issues. Now, I did see a little bit less new 52-week low that was made in the New York Stock Exchange. Instead of a whopping 700 or 803 on Monday, it only had 195 stock make new 52-week low, and there were 44 stocks make new 52-week high. And we did see the cumulative advanced decline continue to move down and making a new low, although the S&P 500 is still above this particular low here. So wouldn't be surprised to see the S&P 500 come down to this 4,300 level in the coming days. Now let's take a look at the Nasdaq and the Nasdaq 100. The Nasdaq 100 closed up a little bit less than 24 points or 0.17%. And also it had a pretty large range as well. The range for the day was 640 points. And the up-down volume ratio was also negative, even though it closed up with 23 point or so. The down volume outnumbered the up volume by a ratio of 1.7, and the declining stock outnumbered the advancing stock by 1,585. Now, similarly to the New York Stock Exchange, we did see quite an improvement on the number of stock making new 52-week low. So it appears that a lot of stock is pretty much on pause here. Remember, a couple of days ago, the number of stock made new 52-week low was 1,764 versus only 18 stock made new high. Today, there were 36 stock made new 52-week high, but there were 366 stocks made new 52-week low. And looking at the cumulative advanced decline line for the Nasdaq market, you can see that it's continued to push to new low, and the Nasdaq 100 actually made a gain here today, so we're getting a slight small negative divergence. So I wouldn't be surprised in the coming day we'll see the Nasdaq 100 turn back down and dip below this low here, just to get it resolved and get back in sync with the advanced decline, cumulative advanced decline line. Now let's take a look at the daily chart of the S&P 500. Remember, we're talking about the possibility of coming back and backtest this trend line and possibly this 38.2 level here, and see would it be able to get back above it and then pushes up and test this 45.45, this pivot high. Although we see that it tried to come up and backtest this trend line today until we had that conference, press conference from J Powell, then it sold off. And right now, although it did end a negative, but still the close is still above that 10% level, from the high to the close. It is sitting at minus 9.7%. Still could be classified as a pullback until it get below or more than 10%. Then we are talking about a correction. So we'll be watching at this level here, essentially the 4,300 level. Okay? So we want to keep an eye on this low here. And if it dips down and dip below this low, then we essentially lost more than 10%, pretty much like 11.2% from the high here. And for the Nasdaq 100, the Nasdaq market is pretty much in a correction territory, because ever since yesterday, it closed down 15.6% from this all-time high here. So right now it's pretty much in a correction territory, and then right now we basically have to keep an eye on this level here, right? This basically this 13,000 level, and if it come down to this 13,000 level, then we could say the Nasdaq is in a bear market, and that's by someone's definition. I don't know who define the bear market as 20% or more from its high. So right now we are just basically watching to see what it come down to this 13,000 level here. And for the Russell 2000, remember when it broke out of this balance area, we're saying look for a range extension down to this 1950, and we say don't even bother to look for this 2075. You see it came down, although it did come up a little bit on this 27.5 before it pushes below this 1950 and came down and checked this 1935. So right now we're essentially watching to see would it be able to come back up and back test this 2075, or would it continue to come down and take out this 1935 here. And if it take out this 1935, we could be looking at the Russell to come down somewhere around this 1,715 level. And looking at the Dow Jones Transportation, remember we were saying that the Dow Jones Transportation was waiting to fill this gap here, and it came down, filled this gap. Right now we're basically watching to see would it be able to get back above this 15,346, essentially this support term resistance level, or would it continue to move down and basically looking at this 14,000 level. And for the Dow Jones Industrial, it broke this channel here right now. It closed below it today. So we'll see would it come back and backtest this, and be watching for this 32,000 level down here. If it could get back up, then we'd be watching this 35,625. And here for the New York Stock Exchange Composite, remember we're talking about this balance area when it came back in. We're saying that look for it to retrace to the other side of this balance area. We did see that on Monday and came back in. Today is still trying to stay above this 16,095. So we're going to see would it be able to get back up to this 16,708 and see would it be able to peek its head above it, or would it come down and take out this 16,094, then watch this 15,775, the next potential support. Now let's take a look at this SPY, the S&P 500 ETF. I basically have updated the composite. I have shifted to this all-time high to the recent price here, so I kind of capture this this pullback and see where the high volume are being concentrated. So right now, we essentially are looking at this high volume zone here right now. It is chopping around this 435 to this 426 and a half or so. So essentially, we are watching to see would it be able to break out of this zone here and move back up to this 438 and a quarter, or essentially up at this composite value area low. So if the price could move back up into this composite, and we could see it possibly move back up to this 457.99 or essentially 458 level, this composite point of control here. But if it continue to move down here and it break this zone, then we'd be looking at a retest of this low and possibly get to this 420. Then on a daily chart, then we'd be looking at this particular level down here somewhere, around this 415 and then this 405. And for the QQQ, the ETF for the Nasdaq 100, I also update the volume profile from the high to the current price. As you can see right now, it seems to be chopping inside of this high volume area. So we'll see would it be just kind of bouncing around and see would it be able to move back above this and work toward back to this 370, or will it continue to go down and then move down to dip below this low here? We're essentially looking at these pivot high here somewhere around 327 to this low here at 316 on the QQQ. And for the IWM, the ETF for the Russell 2000, see that it's bouncing inside of this high volume zone here. So we'll see would it be able to bounce back up and get above it, and this would be somewhere around 202.72 area and get back into this value area low at 208.39. So if it could bounce back up and get it back into this value area, then possibly could work itself back up to this 217.50. But if it breaks this zone, then we essentially are looking at for it to move down to this 190 area here. And here looking at the 10-year yield, as you can see right now, it's still hovering around this 1.85. Remember we talked about this cup and handle pattern, this smaller one here with the 100% major move. That will bring it about 2.5%. Then we also have a larger cup and handle price pattern here. And if it get up to this 618 major move, then that would also bring it up to close to that 2.5%. And looking at the US dollar, this is a weekly chart of the US dollar. You can see that it's back inside of this zone now between this 95.70 and 97.79. So we're still keeping an eye on it to see it would come back up to this 97.79 level. And on this weekly chart for the crude oil, we're still looking at this $90 level and see would it come up to this 90.43. And on this weekly chart for the silver, we see a little bit of a pullback this week on silver. Going to see would it be able to stay above this 23.5 or so. If it doesn't, then we're essentially looking at 22.72, this zone here for possible support. But if we could stay above this 23, then we essentially are looking for another push up to this 24.70 and see what to get above it and 26.67. Gold also made another move, still try to get above this trend line here. And we're saying as long as it stay above this supporting trend line, we'll be watching gold to work itself up to this 1923. Although today FOMC meeting kind of moved gold down a bit, but it still seems to be chopping around this zone here. So we're just waiting to see if we'll get back above this 1846 and move toward this 1923. Now let's take a look at the emini S&P 500 future. This is the market profile chart. Remember yesterday we were talking about these two pull high here, and we're saying that these high will likely get taken out today, and also possibly this point of control will get tagged. And as you can see from this range here on the IB range, the first hour, so it took out these high and also tagged this point of control, and it's pretty much kind of chopping around here, putting a little bit of a balance day until the FOMC announcement and also J Powell's press conference. Then it's starting to come down. Came down, checked this point of control, and it went down lower. And also it created this single print. So we'll be keeping an eye on this single print tomorrow to see would it come up and fill the single print and come up and tag today's point of control, which I will fill in later on this evening, and see would it be able to get above it and push us up here into the single print. But if it only be able to come up and fill the single print and then start coming back down, then we'd be watching these this low here and also this poor low and also single prints down here. Essentially we'd be watching 4200 level if the market continue to move downward. So in summary, the market is sort of in a holding pattern for most of the day today until the FOMC came out and made this announcement, and also J Powell press conference. Then we saw the market to pull back again. So it's critical to watch to see what we'll get into a correction territory in the coming days, because right now the new high, new low, especially the new 52-week low, seems to be in a holding pattern, but the advanced decline also is not showing that much of strength. We are seeing negative divergence in the Nasdaq market, and also the AD line is continue to come down in the New York Stock Exchange. So be careful. I don't believe this pullback or this correction has completed yet. And the key thing is we're watching this level here to be sure that it won't come down to this 4100 and below on the S&P 500. If it does, then we're basically looking at the possibility of dipping down toward that 20% level. So watch these level here. All right, this right here will get us into the correction territory if it go below 4300. So be sure to smash that thumbs up and help me promote and share this video. Thank you for watching and stay safe.